we have to do an interim trade agreement by July 31st and then subsequently a full-fledged trade deal by the autumn. Both sides are actually doing very hard negotiations. They both are keeping their national interests into perspectives. India is not Indonesia. And there are some sectors in which India cannot open because of definite red lines and political ramifications. It's not like that, that India is going to back down or US is going to back down. The two have to sort of look for a compromise, look for a place where the two can come on the same page. NATO chief, Mark Rutte said that, they're going to be 100% secondary tariffs on countries having trade with Russia's oil and other trade. As much as 60% of Indian military hardware comes from Russia, and that comes because the previous US administrations decided to support Pakistan by supplying weapons.
I'm Abhishek Singh and you're watching the Hindustan Times. A couple of days ago, Donald Trump announced that the US has struck a trade deal with Indonesia. Hours later, terms of the agreement came to light. It seemed the US managed to hector Indonesia into accepting an agreement which seems favorable to America. During the same press briefing, Trump said the trade deal with India could be along similar lines. Now that has sparked a discussion in India about what that means. To discuss that, I'm joined by my senior colleague, Mr. Shishir Gupta, Executive Editor, Hindustan Times. Good morning, sir. So, sir, we've been talking about the trade deal, India-US trade deal, ever since Donald Trump came into the White House. Yes. And, of course, Prime Minister Modi met him earlier this year. As of now, for our viewers who might not have been, tracking this thing from January all the way till now, if you could, there are two perspectives here. One is America's perspective, one is India's perspective. To begin with, if you can explain these perspectives to us.
See, let me tell you what actually the latest news is all about. We have to do an interim trade agreement by July 31st and then subsequently a full-fledged trade deal by the autumn, right? Now, yesterday, the chief negotiator, Special Secretary Rajesh Agrawal, has landed in Washington to work out final negotiations which looks towards a interim trade deal. Now, both sides are actually doing very hard negotiations. They both are keeping their national interests into perspective. So if there will be a trade deal, it will be a win-win for both sides, win-win as far as the national interests of both sides go. Now, you mentioned Indonesia. Let me tell you, India is not Indonesia. And there are some sectors in which India cannot open because of definite red lines and political ramifications. Okay? Here we're talking specifically of the agriculture and dairy sector.
Right.
Now, that being said, we are negotiating with good faith with US, and what is more important is that if you look at the trade of India-US, which is about $130 billion, the Indian exports have increased with a significant amount. I mean, it's the maximum increase that has happened. I think something like 17% has gone up to $85.61 billion. And our imports are what? About $45 billion. So it's a healthy bilateral trade. The US also wants to have an access towards Indian markets. We are also clear that we want US also to look at a win-win situation. Yeah. But to say that whether the trade deal is going to happen right now, before July 31st, we have to wait and watch because the negotiations are still on. Let me say that it's work in progress as far as Indo-US trade deal goes.
Right.
That's where it is.
Right. So 3 stages. Earlier this year, when Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump met, they discussed that we must have a deal by fall this year. Then came this whole idea of a mini trade deal between India and US, which is what is being discussed. And as you just mentioned, July 31st is the date where we're looking to finalize this, because August 1st is another key and important date, because that is when, tariffs kick in.
Absolutely.
So if you can talk to us about that for a little bit, because around 20 countries is what Donald Trump sent that letter to. And that letter, became viral on social media, especially the letter to Japan. And in the meantime, what has also happened is that European Union has said that it will impose counter tariffs on Trump, so on and so forth. So the larger picture, because we have discussed the India-US aspect of the trade and tariffs. Now let's talk about the larger picture.
You see, Abhishek, what President Donald Trump is doing, he is doing exactly what he had said before he became the president. He wanted to make America the priority, right? So he is doing what he wants to do. And he here is negotiating with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who himself believes in India first. So it's not like that, that India is going to back down or US is going to back down. The two have to sort of look for a compromise, look for a place where the two can come on the same page and decide to do a proper interim trade deal and then a final trade deal. Now, you have various noises coming out of it. There are these noises that, what the NATO chief, Mark Rutte said that, they're going to be, 100% secondary tariffs on countries, having trade with Russia's oil and other trade, in which sort of India, Brazil and China come into it. Then there is a Lindsey Graham bill, which is needing a congressional approval for 500%. But the point over here is, listen, it's India. It's not, and India did not get any letter. Yeah. So what is being done is being negotiated in good faith. Let me say that to you very clearly. But there is also a legacy issue when it comes to Russia. And that's where India has responded. You see, for a country that has energy requirements of 140 crore people, you simply just cannot shut one day, the oil pipeline, which was coming from Russia. Second thing, India has no options but to deal with Russia on defense, because as much as 60% of Indian military hardware comes from Russia. And that comes because the previous US administrations decided to support Pakistan by supplying weapons. Right. So India had no other options but to go to Russia. Right? So it's a complicated game that's happening. But, to say that, India is going to, take it, lying down, no, it is not going to do that. Because, you see, we will negotiate till the end with all good faith, with a natural ally, with everything that is possible to achieve. And then we will leave it as to what happens from there. Right? Now, in this also, we are looking at other things. For instance, India has a 100 billion trade deficit with China. India is only exporting 14 billion. And China is doing more than 114 billion. So you're looking at something like that. So we have to look at that part of it also. We have also to look at Latin America. The total trade of Latin America per se right now is around 40 billion. That can be easily increased to 100 billion.
You're saying these are the areas where India can make up for...
India can compensate if there is a worst case scenario possible. Similarly, if you look at Africa, the total trade is around, this huge continent, the total trade is around 100 billion. Right. Now, both Africa and Latin America are interested in dealing with India. And that is the reason why Prime Minister Narendra Modi had gone this month to Africa and to Latin America. And the results from there are very clear, with countries like Uruguay and Argentina, Brazil, Ghana, every country conveying, Namibia conveying that, they are for increased trade. So if there is a worst case scenario, we start looking at these countries, because it's easily possible that trade in Africa right now is very tired with the Chinese conditions. So Africa from 100 billion, you can do it to 200 billion. Over there, from 42, you can do 100 billion. So you can be a compensation over there. But that is not to say that India is looking for a worst case scenario. India is looking for a win-win with US, and it is achievable. And let's see where it goes from there, because the results are going to come in within the next week.
Yeah. And of course, like you said earlier, both India and US, it is strategically important for both countries to increase their exports to the other countries. If India and US can both do it, somehow a deal could be struck wherein Indian exports to US increase, while of course US exports to India increase as well. That'll be a win-win, of course. But having said that, the entire negotiating tactic that Donald Trump seems to be following, and I will ask you to look at what happened with Indonesia, is that, he starts really high. That is to say, he said that, 32% tariffs on Indonesia. And then when the final deal was struck, it left some room for himself there. And the final tariffs which were leveled on Indonesia were just 19%. So in a sense, both parties walked away happy from the deal. Indonesia was happy that, it was not as bad as 32%. US walked away with increased access and 19% tariffs on top of that. So talk to us, throw some light on this negotiation that, Donald Trump engages into with other countries.
You see, with Indonesia, what has happened is that Indonesia has allowed access to US companies in agriculture sector, right? Which is a plus for Donald Trump. Now, he does take a maximalist position, then there is a minimalist position, and somewhere in between there is a trade deal. That's exactly what is happening right now also. But when you are clear that you are engaging with an ally, you are engaging with somebody who you want to be a strategic partner, then you also give a leeway to certain things. Now, I'm not saying that, he's going to give up all interest or he's going to take all interest. So there's not going to be a maximalist position, but somewhere there's going to be a deal in this. That is, if you want to have a deal with it. You see, remember one thing. US has imposed tariffs on its closest allies like Japan and South Korea.
Yes.
So, if we are looking in sort of, if you're looking through the trade deal through some, pink glasses, no. Rose-tinted glasses, no. It is not going to be like that. It all depends on how well you can negotiate with them, how well you can deal with them, how well you can actually position yourself to get the best for your country, at the same time not make the other country be let down.
Right. And towards the end, I would ask you to speculate with me along two lines. One is the best case scenario, and later on we will talk about the worst case scenario, about which you've also spoken a little bit earlier. But let's just specifically talk about these two situations. The best case scenario first, from India's point of view.
See, the best case scenario is that there will be a interim trade deal and there will be a final deal. And it is, see, both sides are working towards that. But then, it's not like, it's not a switch on, switch off. It's, whether the two can actually deal with it. So, there is a certain amount of uncertainty because when the negotiations are on, and currently the negotiations are on. Yes. So, to speculate that the deal is coming through or the deal is not coming through is not really the right thing, because the viewer will not understand that, it's not a black and white thing. Right now, you're looking into some gray areas.
No, I was just saying that, for example, if India, the terms that India had laid on the table, I'm not saying US necessarily will accept all of them. I'm saying, but the best case scenario from India's point of view, what could it be? Perhaps, an overall increase in exports, perhaps, more time for some of the Indian industries to, go into US and start manufacturing there, perhaps. I don't know. What is the best case scenario? That is what I was asking about. Not so much like what exactly going to happen.
The best case scenario in this is that you achieve an interim deal where you get minimum hit. That's where it is.
Right.
Okay. You get the minimum hit and you do not get into areas where there are political red lines. Right. So that would be the best case scenario for us.
Right.
For US, the best case scenario is that we open up the Indian market in areas where it's legitimate to open up. For instance, like India wants to buy more oil. India can buy more goods in areas. See, if I cannot open this part, I can compensate in that part.
Right.
That's what we would want to do. So that, both sides are very clear that both actually come out with a win-win situation. That's where it is all about. So this is what is being worked at, and they're continuously at it. I am told Rajesh Agrawal has been to US 5 times in the past 2 months.
Right.
So it's not that, we have actually decided to give up anything on that. We are continuously negotiating. They are continuously negotiating.
Yeah.
And to my mind, I think things will turn up in the positive direction. Either way.
Right. Right. Yeah, and also, I mean, the point about oil is very interesting because, of course, India imports a lot of oil from Russia, but at the same time, US is also a major energy producer. So India can definitely buy.
No, it's a very clear thing. India
Yeah.
has offered that it can increase the sort of import of oil from I think 15 billion to 25 billion dollars. So it is there. So so there is a genuine interest in concluding the deal. If you're doing a deal in good faith, then it works out. Okay, and even if it does not work out, does not mean the two do not remain friends. Right? India is too big a country to sort of simply say that, listen, I'm going to sort of impose this, impose that. This is, India doesn't play Russian roulette.
Yeah, yeah. And we just have to be realistic enough because, like you said, US has been imposing, tariffs on allies from Japan to European Union to others. And it is important to be realistic, especially in these times. But on that note,
Yeah, but he is in good faith as far as Donald Trump goes. He is doing exactly what he promised his own electorate to do. So he's doing things in his own good faith. Now you find it sort of uncertain. That's your business to do, but that's your business to negotiate also.
So actually two key developments are, and they're not exactly related to what we've been talking about for a while, but one is, of course, the designation of TRF as a terrorist organization. And then one more important announcement which came from White House, because there were reports doing round yesterday that Donald Trump is going to visit Pakistan. And of course, White House later on denied these reports, that there is no such plan, there is no such, a thing in his schedule at this point in time.
See, Pakistan has been playing this game for a long time. And everybody sees through this game. Fact of the matter is this: Pakistan wants that US should continue the hyphenation of India-Pakistan. It knows that President Donald Trump will be coming to India later this year for the Quad Summit. So before anybody does anything, they introduce this element saying that he's coming to Pakistan, so that the entire narrative again starts India, Pakistan, India, Pakistan, India, Pakistan, Kashmir, Pakistan, and so on and so forth. All this is a stale propaganda that Pakistan does time and again. Fact of the matter is, President Donald Trump should come to India for the Quad Summit. Already the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting has taken place. September, with air in Delhi being the best at that time, is the best time to have a Quad Summit.
And also, I mean, it's interesting Pakistan claimed this because the last time a US president visited Pakistan was in 2006, which is when Bush visited Islamabad. But that's a long time ago. Since then, no American president has bothered to go to Pakistan.
Pakistan right now is playing the game of sitting on a fence where it wants to have relations with US, but at the same time is sitting in the lap of China. So it is for Pakistan to decide which way it wants to go, not the US.
Another interesting development is, of course, related to TRF. What happened there, sir?
When we say that, this is basically the US State Department today has designated the Resistance Front, which is the offshoot of Pakistani Lashkar-e-Taiba group, which is involved in the Pahalgam massacre, as a global terrorist group, right? Which impinges on its funding, which impinges on, basically it puts it on the special list, right? Now, this is a very important development because this shows continuous, cooperation in counterterrorism with US. Now, to my understanding, the topic of designating TRF as the terrorist group was taken up by India when Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri went to Washington on May 27th. We told them what we had on the TRF, which had claimed responsibility for the Pahalgam massacre. Now, this topic was taken up, and the Indian government was informed well in advance that the Trump administration is designating TRF as a terror group. Now, so this basically shows that apart from the trade deal, the bilateral ties between the two countries are going at full speed ahead.
Right.
Whether it is the designation of TRF, whether it is supply of GE-404 engines, the negotiations for GE-414 engines are also on, and a decision on that is also expected very soon. So the thing is that there is a trade deal. There are bilateral ties. The bilateral ties are going on the good track, right track. And now the trade deal, if it happens, it will be a force multiplier to the bilateral ties.
Right.
This is where it stands. And that is why TRF is, designation of TRF as a global terrorist group is also a signal to Pakistan, which continues to promote such groups to target India and the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir.
On that note, sir, thank you so much.